Dr. Carrion,
Here.
Ms. Chang,
Here.
Dr. Diego,
Here.
Dr. DeRusso,
Here.
Ms. Shipsky, Dr. Salmonson.
Here.
We have a quorum.
Thank you. Well, good afternoon and welcome to licensing. We have 8 agenda items today, but first I would like to ask for public comment on items not on the agenda. We've gotten, but this is an agenda item, so we're holding this, is that? Okay. Any other non-agenda items? Well, seeing none, let us move on to the approval of the minutes from the October 27th meeting.
So moved.
Thank you. Any additions or corrections? Any public comment? Well, then, we had a move to approve. May I have a vote in favor to approve the minutes?
Aye.
Any opposed?
I can't vote because I missed that meeting, I believe.
Okay, thank you. Thank you. And let the record reflect that. Let's then, I think that's still enough of a quorum that minutes are approved. And let's have an update on licensing staffing. I believe Mr. Warren is going to present that.
For licensing, we currently are down to 5 vacancies, which is a big improvement from where we were. I currently have 1 staff manager vacancy because Ms. Robinson has taken a promotion within the board. So that's a vacancy. I have 1 international medical school vacancy, application reviewer. So we have a vacancy for our registered dispensing optician technician. I have a vacancy in cashiering, and we have a polysomnography analyst position that is available to us, but the duty statement is currently being developed. The call center is fully staffed for the first time in approximately a year, and I have hired a AGPA to fill the international medical school analyst position. That's Ms. Thompson. And in addition, the licensing managers have hired new analysts for midwifery, which is Ms. Morris, and for the senior application review committee is Ms. Thomas, and the policy and procedures training position is Mr. Mindenhall. All these analysts are in their training for their positions at this time. Also, we have approximately 25% of our licensing staff in various stages of training for their positions. And that concludes my update on staffing.
Thank you for the update. Do any of the committee members have any comments? Any public comments on that item? Well, then let's move on to the business process reengineering recommendations. And I believe Dr. Warren, Mr. Warren is going to continue to update us on this project.
Okay, we currently have 4 of the business processing reengineering recommendations that are still in progress. And those are the revision of the physician and surgeon application, the medical board website, the study of postgraduate training authorization letter, and also the revision of the policy and procedure manual. Mr. Sagato will provide you with more details on that.
In regards to the application revision team has continued to work on the revision on the physicians and surgeons application, and the revised application has been submitted to the licensing staff for review and comments. The complete draft of the application form will be provided to the licensing managers for reviews and edits, and then to the executive staff and legal. Once approved, we plan on getting feedback from local ACGME residents. In regards to the website is concurrently being reviewed as the revision for the physician and surgeon applications continues to proceed. The physician and surgeon's application revision committee is still studying whether a separate PTAL application should be created. At this time, it appears that we will continue with 1 application for both licensure and the PTAL. And there are no new updates to the policy and procedures manual due to staff priorities. We have just hired a new analyst who will start working on the policy and procedure manual. However, some steps of the manual will not be able to be worked on until the breeze is close to being implemented. This concludes our update on the business re-engineering processes.
Well, thank you for the update. Again, any committee member comments? Public comments? Okay, well, now we are going to get an update on the SB 100 implementation, and this relates to outpatient surgery center requirements. I believe both Mr. Warden and Mr. Salgado will give us a presentation on this.
Okay, to start off with, this presentation is only regarding the parts that pertain to licensing program and where we are with the implementation on the stuff that licensing is required to do and where we're at. So we're going to give you a little background information that Mr. Salgado is going to provide you, and then where we're at with those different items.
Okay. Today we are going to discuss the status of the Medical Board of California's licensing section implementation of Senate Bill 100 Price, Chapter 645 regarding healing arts outpatient surgery settings. Currently, the Medical Board estimates that there are approximately 700 outpatient surgery centers in California. The Medical Board is responsible for approving outpatient accreditation agencies. The Medical Board is not responsible for approval of the outpatient settings. However, the Medical Board adopts the regulations for the approval criteria for the outpatient settings. The Medical Board currently has 4 approved outpatient accreditation agencies. The first one being American Association for Accreditation of Ambulatory Surgery Facilities, Quad ASF, located in Illinois. We have Accreditation Association for Ambulatory Healthcare, AAA-HC, in Illinois, the Joint Commission, located in Illinois, and the Institute for Medical Quality, IMQ, located in California. And in order to become an approved accreditation agency in California, an application must be submitted by the accreditation agency and must be approved by the Medical Board. The application consists of standards indicated by Health and Safety Code sections 1248.15, which the board confirms that these standards are applicable. If any of these standards changes with the accreditation agencies, they must write to the board indicating the change and await for our approval. Accreditation agencies must renew every 3 years. In the renewal process, the accreditation agency must reaffirm that they are in compliance with these standards set out in the Health and Safety Codes. So in regards to SB 100 Price, Chapter 645, Statutes of 2011, this bill has requirements for 3 entities: the Medical Board, outpatient settings, and accreditation agencies. First, I would like to review with you the requirements for the Medical Board. The Medical Board is required to maintain a listing of information on outpatient settings on its internet website. The board is required to adopt standards as necessary for outpatient settings that offer in vitro fertilization. The board is required to adopt regulations to specify procedures that should be performed in an accreditation setting that are outside the definition of an outpatient setting. The Medical Board is required to evaluate accreditation agencies every 3 years, and this ensure agencies inspect outpatient settings. This would include evaluating responses to complaints against an agency and evaluate complaints against the accreditation of outpatient settings. The board is required to keep on file inspection results, which include a plan of correction and comments. These final reports are public documents and they are identified deficiencies, plans of corrections, requirements for improvement, notes regarding completion of corrective action. The board is also required to take appropriate actions as necessary if an outpatient settings accreditation is suspended, revoked, or denied, and the board is required to investigate all complaints concerning a violation of this chapter. Now I will discuss the requirements for outpatient settings. Outpatient settings are now required to post a plan of correction for public view. They review certificates of accreditations if suspended, revoked, or denied. The settings are required to disclose full reports of denials if applying for accreditation with a different agency. The settings are required to add vitro fertilization facilities to the definition of outpatient setting. The settings are subject to adverse event reporting requirements and associated penalties. Settings are required to submit for approval by agency at the time of accreditation a detailed plan, standardized procedures, and protocols to be followed in the event of serious complications. These settings are required to have all sites to be inspected, and all settings are required to comply with corrective action within a time frame specified by the accreditation agency. Failure to do so will allow the accreditation agency to issue a reprimand, probation, suspension, or revocation. Now I will talk about the requirements for the accreditation agencies. Accreditation agencies are required to conduct a reasonable investigation of the prior history of the outpatient settings as part of the accreditation process. Accreditation agencies are required to periodically inspect outpatient settings, no less than once every 3 years, and must be on-site inspections. Accreditation agencies are required upon receipt of a complaint from the board when a setting poses an immediate risk to public safety to inspect and report its findings within 5 business days. All other complaints from the board, the accreditation agencies are to report its findings to the board within 30 days. Accreditation agencies are required to notify and update the board on all outpatient settings that are accredited. These agencies are required to notify the board within 24 hours when an outpatient settings accreditation is reprimanded, suspended, revoked, or placed on probation. Accreditation agencies are required to notify the board within 3 business days if an accreditation is denied. Accreditation agencies are required to send notification letters to an outpatient setting when the accreditation is revoked, indicating that the settings are no longer allowed to perform procedures requiring accreditation. And in cases where another agency denies, revokes, or suspends accreditation to the outpatient setting, and that setting must reapply and disclose the full accreditation report to the new agency, the new accreditation agency shall ensure that all the deficiencies have been corrected, and they will conduct a new on-site inspection consistent with the standards specified. In regards to the status of the medical board, the board has placed information on the winter 2011 and 2012 medical board's newsletter. The board has notified all accreditation agencies and outpatient settings of the new requirements in this bill. The board is working with accreditation agencies to develop a system to perform a global search without the need to contact accreditation agencies individually. Previously, not all the data that was referenced in the bill was acquired. Therefore, the accreditations, what they're submitting, does not have all the information displayed at this time, or it will be incomplete. The database will be updated as additional information is acquired. The board currently has some information from the accreditation agencies, but the information is not in a searchable format and consistent format. The board is working with the accreditation agencies to have a universal format among the 4 agencies. The board is establishing a process for reporting changes to the data reported by the accreditation agencies so that the information is current. The board's information system branch is currently setting up a database which we plan the accreditations agencies can log into the system and update, so that information will be real time. The board is also establishing a process to evaluate complaints against accreditation agencies. The licensing has been in discussions with the enforcement program in streamlining these types of complaints. The board is also establishing a process to maintain inspection reports, tracking whether the reports are completed and these issues are addressed. The board is also establishing new applications and new renewal forms that will reflect the new requirements indicated in SB 100 price. Now we will demonstrate on our website where to obtain this information currently. So this is the medical board's main homepage. We would click on the A through Z index. Currently, we're having technical difficulties. So once we're in the A through Z index, we would click on O and select outpatient surgery settings. This gives a brief generalization of the new laws and regulations, and when you scroll down, we have the 4 listed accreditation agencies. And that's how you would currently find that information right now.
So I guess I'm going to jump in with the question. So if a patient has a procedure scheduled and it's at Surgery Center XYZ and they want to know if it's accredited, at this point, it's not in that format where there's a list, or you can't plug that in and say, who was your accrediting agency? I mean, I guess you could ask at the center, but if you're skeptical and you want to cross-check, how would they do that?
They would have to go to the special that accreditation agency and look through their website currently.
But the goal is that ultimately it'll be on our website in the searchable form.
Correct.
Okay. And will they have the denials listed as well?
That I am not sure.
Okay.
Or they can call us at the number that's listed below, and we can find out all that information.
Okay, very good. Any other questions from committee members? How about public questions? Apparently, we've got Tina Manassian and Jack French from the Consumer Union Safe Patient Project who'd like to make a comment to this agenda item.
Good afternoon. Tina Manassian.
Jack French.
We're working with Consumers Union Safe Patient Project. Several of us met with Ms. Whitney and Ms. Kirkmeyer last week. We wanted to let this committee know about concerns we have with the appropriate oversight and safety of outpatient surgery centers, which you're discussing today. In implementing SB 100, you can move things in the right direction, and it's important that you do this quickly. In particular, we ask that NBC include on its website historic information about outpatient setting violations that have been noted by accrediting agencies in the past. NBC to work quickly to coordinate a clear process with the Department of Public Health regarding reporting of adverse events, including getting CDPH to notify the NBC when such events are reported or fines assessed. NBC should make this important patient safety information available on its website when appropriate. Where appropriate, NBC should investigate whether the adverse events involve physician misconduct, and NBC should communicate to California physicians that they must now report adverse events, and if they don't do so in a timely manner, they can be fined. I do have 2 questions. I am a patient who had surgery at an outpatient surgery center. My surgery lasted 7.5 hours, and I was told by 2 expert witnesses that I shouldn't have had my surgery in an outpatient surgery center because there was lots of complications and risk of having my surgery in a surgery center. I'm alive here today to tell you my story, but the question I have is there any restriction for a physician on the number of hours he can operate in an outpatient setting? Can you do surgery up to 12 hours, 14 hours, 16 hours, 18 hours? I don't know the answer to that. And the other question I have is the inspections that you do on these outpatient surgery centers, can they be posted on a wall or somewhere in eyesight so when a consumer walks into a surgery center, they can actually see an inspection report that's been done on this surgery center? I know that nursing facilities do this, residential care facilities for the elderly do this. Consumers can walk into these facilities and review an inspection report done by licensing of community licensing agencies that actually oversee these facilities. Thank you for your attention to this. We look forward to working with staff and board to ensure that SB 100 is implemented in ways that increase patient safety in California. Thank you.
Thank you.
Did you have comments as well, Mr. French?
No, thank you.
Oh, okay, thank you. Any comments regarding this agenda item? Well, in that case, I think we look forward to working with all interested parties as well in the implementation. Thank you for your comments. And it looks like we're ready to accept agenda items for the May 3rd and 4th meeting, which will be held in Los Angeles. Obviously, the current items, such as implementation of SB 100, will certainly be on that agenda as well. But are there any new topics anyone would like to propose for that meeting?
Yes, I have one. Is my mic on? Okay. I would like to have maybe a report of some kind on what the staff is doing to follow up on the Section 2168 special faculty permits. Just to make sure those people are practicing in compliance with the law. So if that's okay.
Certainly, thank you. Very good. Any other thoughts for agenda items for the licensing committee for May? Well, seeing none, I will take a motion to adjourn.
Oh, we're done? Oh, great. Thank you.
And a second. Any objections? We are adjourned. Thank you.
Well done. Good job.
Nothing too controversial this time.